Good afternoon, Wellness Way Nation. We are live today for a topic that's really on my heart, and you have a personal story with it. You have a personal story, and so you guys know Renee. I'm Bree, and this is Christy Flynn, Dr. Patrick's wife. And we have a special guest today. We have Dr. Alex Fennelly from our office in Montana.
Hello.
And she's going to bring a doctor's perspective.
Yes.
So you don't have any kids dealing with this yet because Teddy is
4 months.
4 months. So they haven't tried to label 4-month-old yet with ADHD. I mean, I've seen them
I'm
label
sure it's
some
getting
pretty
there.
young kids. They'll be there. But we are going to talk about a really big topic in schools and put a different perspective on it. Not just that there's other options, but we're going to give practical steps. So you hear out there, well, take fish oil or avoid purple carrots or red dyes. You know, don't avoid purple carrots. Just
Unless you're allergic.
unless you're allergic. Thinking about food. I'm just saying there's lots of options out there. It's not a one-size-fits-all box, and we're going to break it down today. It's probably going to be a little bit longer of a show, but we're going to stay on track.
Yeah, right. Without our note board.
Without our note board. We're going to talk about some real stuff and give you tips and different things. So if you're just tuning in, please say hi. Let us know how old your kids are. And if you have any questions in regards to anything behavioral or school starting, put them in. I'm going to watch comments and we'll ask Dr. Alex if we need to, or we can bring in our mom experience, coining
like
that and what that means. But obviously, you know, if you're watching the show, where the Wellness Way stands on prescription meds, and if there's a time and a place, absolutely. We talk about the fireman carpenter principle, but we won't get into all that. We've got lots of videos to reference that. But my story, which I've told in different videos, I was on Adderall. Actually, I started on Ritalin in 5th grade. I talked a lot. Shocking. I know.
So weird.
I don't know why. So I was first labeled ADHD, and it was Ritalin. And my mom would crush it up and put it in orange juice or chocolate milk, and that's how I would take it. So I didn't actually take it, though. I dumped it out, and that was a whole nother slew of issues. But here's your sugary stuff
Yeah, there's your sugar.
to take your Ritalin, which is going to cause you not to eat because it's an appetite suppressant, and then you're not going to eat, and so you're going to be going crazy, and then you're going to eat snacks at 2 o'clock and eat cookies. It's a backwards effect. So this was many years ago. Is Ritalin still on the market? Does anybody know?
I more commonly see kids on Adderall.
Adderall, and now they're moving to Vyvanse, Adderall XR. So it was Ritalin back in the day. And then I had all these complications from it. I don't remember a lot from 5th grade. So I moved into middle school, and instead of supporting how I was as a kid, putting me in a position where I would talk, helping with exercises, and for me, looking at what I ate, my brain was just, we talked about this in the last episode, picture a brain, it was just going crazy. I feel like neurotransmitters just flashing in my brain. So I started, freshman year of high school, I started Adderall. And the thing with Adderall, there was no Adderall XR. So Adderall XR is where it releases. It's a time release. Didn't have that to start. So I had to just keep taking more pills throughout the day. And I was at the point where in junior year, I think senior year of high school as well, I was taking 20 or 25 milligrams of Adderall 4 times a day.
Whoa. Yeah.
I mean, just on speed. Well, it's an appetite suppressant, so I wasn't eating. And you don't sleep because it's speed. It's a legal version of cocaine. I've never done coke, and I would assume that's somewhat of what it's like. It's a methamphetamine. Literally, the prescription said methamphetamine. So I stopped eating, and I remember, sure, my grades were better, but I was miserable. I was a zombie. And I remember laying in bed after another med switch, so they would just keep switching it and adding more. I was at the point where I was on 2 prescriptions because they didn't make a 25 milligram Adderall, so I was on a blue one for 5 milligrams and a pink one for 20. This was like 15 years ago, and I still remember it all. I remember laying in bed, shaking. It's making me shake now talking about it. And my mom coming up and her saying, "You have to eat. I will get you anything you want." This is the point where we didn't eat healthy. It was Taco Bell, it was McDonald's. what do you want to eat? And I said, I can't even think about eating. This wasn't the start of the medicine either. This was weeks in. This was every time I had a med switch. It wasn't, oh, this will just wear off. So then I'm shaking in bed, almost on the way to the ER because I hadn't eaten in a week. I literally, every time I would try to eat, I would puke. So then I'd have to go off the medicine so that I could eat something. Well then, being a teenager, I learned how to manipulate it on purpose.
Yeah.
I took my Adderall Monday through Thursday, hunkered down, and then on Friday I didn't take it because Friday was football Friday, and that was the time to go out, go to football games, go hang out with friends, and if I took my Adderall, I was not the typical me. Nobody wanted to hang out with me. I was crabby. I was like, you know what it is.
Zombie.
Kids on medicine.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take it on Fridays. So then Fridays I was getting suspended. I was getting in trouble. And then, or making it through till Friday night. And then I was a crazy kid on the weekends. And then I was back on Adderall on Mondays. It was like this double life. Fast forward, they told me it was safe during pregnancy. I think it led to some of the postpartum depression.
Sure.
So then the depressive side effects of Adderall, I was on Zoloft, and it just kept going. And at one point, I was a patient here. I just started here and had started learning. This was 12 years ago. I started learning.
I remember way back.
Yeah, and started going through all this stuff and really researching it. And for me, it was what I was eating. I knew, and still to this day, now it's better because my gut, and we're going to talk about the gut-brain connection next, but I just couldn't eat sugared cereal, so I would manipulate my body, and if I was going to go speak somewhere or do different things, not at this job, but different job, I would eat sugared cereal or different things. So I learned, started healing.
I remember the jokes, like, hey, Bree's got a lot to do, give her the Fruity Pebbles, you know.
Yeah, and it was crazy, and I just imagined what I was doing to my body, and then I had a baby, and now she's got gut issues, but there's so many side effects, and that was my personal story. And I will tell you, getting off of it as an adult, there were years went by where it was still, oh, I could get twice as much done. I could be Superwoman if I took my Adderall. But then on the flip side, the crash and the oh my God, destroying my gut, and just everything on the flip side was just a mess. It was just a mess. So I never looked back. I don't think I've had it I was 21, I think, the last time I took it. I don't even remember. It was back then. I just started phasing it out, and I just looked at it one day, and then I was at the front desk, and so I found a position at the time while I was working through it that it was good to be bubbly, and it was good to be talkative, and I started to see my ADD. My ADHD, as I grew up, transformed into ADD. I lost the H, which is the hyperactivity aspect of it, although I don't believe that because I can be pretty hyper, and learned how to grow in that and see some of those things as my strength. And so that's my story, and why I'm a huge proponent of not going on. It's not just, oh, my kid's going to be better behaved. There's so many implications. Not just then. I started in 5th grade, and I look at what I went through, and friendship issues, you start to, just like math, you start to second guess, and you start to not hallucinate, what's the word I'm looking for, get paranoid, but not to the point where anybody notices it, because it's not like being on drugs, but you are on drugs. And then the other thing I did is I picked. So my face and my arms, I still have scars. That's what my scars are from. And when I got pregnant, my body didn't heal because my everything goes to the baby. So I have scars because the Adderall, it's meth. It is meth, and I am fully convinced after doing it. You pick. You ever seen like pictures before and after meth?
Yeah.
It's meth in a low dose legal form, and there's so many other options.
Yeah, and it stifles out who you are as a person, your personality. I mean, it completely stifles that out. You know, there's nothing wrong with being a, on point person if that's who you are, and they automatically tag that as an issue. And you think of all the people that, I mean, they don't need to be medicated for it. There's other things to help calm that down, but at the same time you have to remember that other people are wired differently, you know. Some people are really laid back, and some people are, you know.
Well, and I think sometimes, you know, these poor teachers that are in with first 20 kids in a class, and then 25, and then 30, and then 32 with an 8. Like, they've got all these different little personalities to work with, and when you get the fiery ones that are just excited and go, it makes the classroom that much harder, which makes the recommendations of, maybe ADHD on this one,
and
a little bit easier.
Don't forget, boys are very different than girls.
There you go.
Stop this
Exactly.
trying to make our
They're
little
wired
boys into
different.
little
Yep.
girls. That's who they are.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
again, it's exactly what I was like, yes. It's a cascade of events.
It really is.
It's a complete
vicious
cascade.
circle.
It's a vicious circle because you look at, okay, their behavior, and you keep going back trying to say, okay, well, it's not, you know, the teachers are doing the best they can. Okay, so now bring it back a level. Okay, what are they eating? What are, you know, and we'll get into that now, but it's a cascade event. You have to kind of figure out, well, what is it? What is it that's
Adderall or these ADD meds that are flooding the market right now are a larger gateway drug than marijuana.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't too long ago, I've watched documentaries on these things where they were talking about, that's the new hot drug on college campuses because they'll crush it and snort
they
it.
snort it. Yeah,
And
I've heard
then
about
all the grades go up and all the energy goes up and everything goes up and they fly through these like very elite schools.
Why don't you teach that as so for me personally, once I got all this stuff, this isn't going to be an overnight, you guys. It's not going to be, my son has hyperactivity. I stopped the Adderall and I gave him a superfood smoothie the next morning and it didn't work.
No.
But now that I know where I am, I know different things that truly support my brain and my body, or things I need to avoid that make my different. ADD is real.
Yeah.
ADHD is real. It's
absolutely.
a true something going on in the brain. It does not mean it's genetic. It does not mean it's not incurable. Why do you think it's increasing nowadays? Better diagnosis? No.
Yeah.
It's all the food supply and the things pumped into them. But
And everybody has different triggers.
Yes.
Everybody.
Different for
a little bit about the gut-brain connection.
Well, when
People
we
hear
look
that
at,
word.
I just listened to, and it's a great reference. Dr. Patrick just talked about the anxiety video, and you know, listening to that when he talked about histamine being a excitatory neurotransmitter. You know, histamine, that is, you have that histamine response when you have food allergies, and so you know, we've all been tested for our food allergies, obviously. So anything that you're eating, if you're allergic to carrots, it's creating that histamine response. Well, that's excitatory, and you know, that's what I'm saying. Everybody has different triggers for that. For me, struggling with anxiety through our mold poisoning, gluten is a huge trigger. Anytime I have it, I will not sleep that night, and I have anxiety for days
That's
after.
valid too. Yeah.
Yep. You know, where other people can eat that and they have no issue with that. So everybody's got, again, different triggers, but that histamine response, you don't realize that that's excitatory, and that causes that.
Which is that's why it's so important to test, because you don't know. I
Exactly.
mean, yours are different than mine.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We're
gonna
all different.
walk you guys through at the end, if you
Yeah.
stick with us, on what it would look like from a patient standpoint. Just because people ask us, what can you
All
do
the
for
time,
my
yeah.
child? I had a lady ask me a couple weeks ago at camp, my son has rage issues that comes with his ADD and ADHD. You can medicate ADD and ADHD all you want. That's not necessarily going to change that.
No.
But now Carter is 15,
Mm-hmm.
and how old is he when he was diagnosed?
It was second grade.
Second grade, so 8, 7,
he-
8-year-old is
Yeah,
second grade.
yeah, right around 7.
Okay.
And I had seen as a mom, I'm like, you know what? I started to recognize like these impulsive things that he would do, where like he would like reach out and grab things or hit things or whatever. And I'm like, this is not an aggressive child. This is not like an argumentative child. This is not a rage issue, but people could confuse it as that. You know, there would be this action, and then this look would come over his face like, what just happened here? And right around then, his second grade teacher was like, well, maybe we want to look at ADD, like an ADHD diagnosis for him. And he was my first baby, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't.
And you're not here,
No.
I mean, at all. You weren't even patient yet at all.
No, well, that's how it started, is because I'm like, I don't know anything about this, but everything in me says, no, not this child. And I just walked down.
But not from up north, so I hear this all the time. Not this child, kids don't need medicine, leave them
No.
be. It was not this child, but I'm going to keep researching. This is where I was going and I forgot. Shocker, Bree got sidetracked with the whole with the whole it's real, but it doesn't mean you just say they don't need meds, just let them be till they're expelled from school and they're too far down.
No.
Well, right, and
Right.
because I could see the things in him, but I also knew his heart, and I'm like, he was wildly smart. I knew he could focus. He was super compassionate, very, very sweet, but there were just these things that he would do, and I'm like, okay. I went through it because I'm like, I am unfamiliar with this entire territory, and I started going down the traditional medical path of what does this just look like? What does this look like? And we actually made the appointments, went in, talked to, who are they, psychiatrists? Or like, we're going to give you a test and fill out this survey, and based on the score, we'll determine if we think he has ADHD or not. And I took one look at it, and I'm like, based on these questions, I have ADHD. Everybody has ADHD because of the way they were written and things like that. And I'm like, let me just take this home. And I started pursuing a whole lot of other things. And at the same time, he was also covered in rashes. And Doc, he doesn't do these talks anymore, but at that time, he was doing a talk in the front of the office on kids on the spectrum. That included everything from ADD to autism. And I came here and thought, this is the first thing that made sense, because he's talking about how you're designed to function, how when you see these kind of things manifest, they're from something else. Mm-hmm. And I started to get more information on, okay, Carpenter perspective. And clearly, what I was most comfortable with is the fact that when he said, you know what, if you need a drug, go ahead, and we're going to figure out why. And I'm like, oh, so then you might be not as crazy as I thought, or that as crazy as everybody says you are, because I wanted to be able to offer Carter all the tools that he needed. So as we were going through this, I had him tested here, and being a mom trying to do everything I possibly can, waiting for test results here, I was referred to the Feingold diet, which was incredible, very, very simple. At the base level, where it was removing artificial colors, flavors, a couple of preservatives, specific ones, and then looking at salicylates in food. Started doing some of that and noticed really impressive results. Just like, what? This stuff is kind of weird. And then I was talking to one of the women here who gave me activities for Carter to do. And really simple, easy things. We can get into the practical steps later. And that stuff helped. And then once the results came back, it showed he had a metal toxicity. So I'm like, this little boy is on fire. This little boy is on fire. And then there were all these other pieces that we could do. And as we were walking through this entire thing, it took time. And we were blessed enough to have teachers that were on board. They were like, you know what, we don't know what you're doing. It's great. We're seeing the results. And then they actually went and found additional activities, because to help them, they recognized, hey, we've got other kids that can benefit from these things. So they started developing little therapies, and something about a little figure 8 that they could do with their hands, and that helps the brains of these poor little kiddos.
Connecting both sides of the brain.
Yep, for sure.
You just said something which caught my eye. I'm always into the whole think differently. You said this little boy is on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So what my biggest fear is, if we just cover up what these kids have going on with drugs, it's going to manifest into something else. So no, it's not necessarily saying that Adderall causes cancer. What I'm saying is Adderall covers up the issues and the fire that's going on in these little boys and little girls, little or big. Any 30. What did we decide? What did we do today? 560% increase over since 2003.
That's
So
crazy.
2003 to 2015, 560% increase in 30 to 34-year-olds filling ADHD prescriptions, ADHD prescriptions.
30-year-olds.
30 to 34-year-olds. 700% increase, 25 to 29-year-olds.
That's intense.
So now
That's
you've covered
crazy.
all of these
Staggering.
issues up. Are they hormonal? Are they metal toxicity? Are they, what might they be? And then when they're 50, or maybe not even that old, 25, and they're infertile,
Yeah.
Or at 50 when they have cancer, we don't go, you know what? Maybe at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, look, I can count. We shouldn't have covered up
Exactly.
what was going on. You're right, you made him be able to take a geography test, or her. Congratulations.
Yeah. Right.
What did you cover up that's going to manifest, that's going to show
Yeah.
up 30 years from now, and nobody's ever going to look back?
Into something much bigger, and I'm not downplaying, the severity of that, but when you look at that, then you're looking at, autoimmune, which can be, lifelong. You're monitoring that with patients, and cancers, and it's manifests into something
Or
much
the
bigger.
Depression meds they took to cover up the
Sure.
Oh,
Yep.
sure.
It's
depression
just
from
a
the
cascade
Adderall,
of that,
or
yeah.
And the sleep meds that they took.
because you can't
'cause you
sleep,
can't
and then the
sleep.
appetite
Yep.
meds they gave you because it was an appetite suppressant, and then the steroid creams they gave you to put on your arms because you're picking at them because you're on a legal version of meth.
And then the repercussions of just those prescriptions themselves, the side effects, and yeah,
And
you just
we-
But
increase
it's
it tenfold.
still simple. There's still some practical
Yeah.
things you can start with.
Yeah.
So you talked about the Feingold diet. We could also probably call it a wellness way diet. I don't even know if the Feingold diet is still out there, but just eating
It is out there.
non-inflammatory.
It's actually really brilliant when you start getting into. If you want to geek out on how the brain works, like go read some of their stuff. They're
Absolutely, and we
super cool.
recommend doing that. If this
Yeah.
is something that you're dealing with your children,
Yeah.
you need to do that. You
Yeah.
need to do it for you. To
Yes.
have that, like, firsthand, like, I'm reading this and I'm understanding what's really going on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that,
So Chrissy, why don't you touch on Callista's story? So she's your second from youngest,
yes.
and
out of-
what's going on with her, and
Well,
what road she could have went down?
So we had noticed as, like, when she was like 3-ish, she was having issues with her speech, and like she was a little on, like, all the kids did sign language, but then they spoke. Well, she wasn't necessarily speaking right away, and we're like, and so I had a friend who's a speech pathologist. I had her working with her, and so we started backtracking. We're like, okay, well, her cord was compressed. She was the only one that had the cord compressed in, like, the very end of birth.
Which
And-
means lack of oxygen,
Yes.
possibly? Okay.
So for just that last little, heave ho, baby's coming
Yeah.
out, whatever.
Yeah.
But so we knew that, but we just said, okay, we're gonna just pay attention to, whatever. So when we started noticing, we're like, okay, all right. So we also had talked to Leslie in the office, and she gave us different things to work with her back when she was 3 and 4, and it improved things. Her speech, everything started coming around. But then we noticed that she would like catch up, and then she's very I don't know how to explain it. She's our wild child. She is all over the place. Lots of squirrel, lots of
She's gonna do big things.
Yeah.
oh, this
Can
girl
you
is
imagine if you
amazing.
suppressed that?
She is the charismatic. She looks like me, but she's completely her father.
Yeah.
She can work a room like
She's
no other.
probably like the one I'm gonna work for someday. I mean, Faith. Or
no,
her,
I
but
think Felicity
but
said she's going to
something.
be doing whatever. I think Callista wants Danny's job. She wants to travel. And
Perfect.
but anyway, so we noticed, and she was in school, and the teacher couldn't help her with some of the things that she had going on. And it's nothing against it. It was in that environment. She couldn't remember things. But we couldn't tell. The teacher would look at it and say, oh, she's being sassy, because she'd be like, I don't know what you're talking, like, what? And she'd always say, what? And I'm like, okay. But when we come home and we're going through stuff, she understood everything.
Mhm.
Like, she's very, very smart. But we knew there was some disconnect.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, we got food allergies tested. We did that route. But we knew there was something else. So we got her tested at Learning RX, and they do a lot of different activities where they're talking about the right side and left side of the brain, how they work together, and found out that she had very poor, like really, really bad short and long-term memory, and logic and reasoning. So being able to take it all together and you see a bunch of pieces, like, how do they work together? How can you figure things out? And it made, it was like,
We have
she's
answers.
but she's visual. Like her visual was like almost 100%. Like her spatial relation, all that kind of thing. So as long as she could take something from her memory bank that she already did know, and it was visual, and then related to it, she could learn it and know it and like recite it like no problem. She was fine.
So you have a website that you
So
use?
Well, I after they tested and told me, they were telling me about the different activities that they would have her doing, and I just started researching them more. And I looked up, and there's this it's an app that you can put on your phone or on the computer. So I put it on the computer and made it a part of her thing. It's called Mental Up, and it literally has different like games and activities that work on memory, work on logic and reasoning, all of the different areas. And she did them all like the whole school year. And by the end of the school year, so now this summer, so now we're going to transition her back in. So I took the year off and I homeschooled her, and now we're going to put her back in. But she had her test. This was so exciting. She tested for math for placement, and there were things I knew she wasn't going to. I'm like, you just do your best, honey. That's all. I don't really, just do your best. And so she did. And I hadn't really explained to the teacher like what she was really struggling with.
Yeah.
She kind of knew a little bit, but not really. And the teacher ended up saying, what was really cool watching her, when she didn't understand something, she literally would talk it out and do deductive reasoning. It can't be this, it can't be that one because of this and this, so it's got to be this or this. And she like literally
Worked through it.
Mm-hmm. That is logic and reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
She officially can do it.
And
It's
she's how old?
amazing.
For those that don't know?
She's 9.
She's 9. But think of
So-
how that set her up for 19.
Oh my goodness. So
and
now
29.
she's now able to do that. She couldn't do that before.
And had you medicated her, which obviously wouldn't be the case in your situation, but you would have stifled that out, she wouldn't have had that growth, and she would be stuck in
It would be that endless cycle of
Yep.
her frustration.
scary.
I mean, the girl was
Exactly.
smart, but she just,
Yeah.
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 Well, and when you were saying putting pieces together, I think that was the difference when I was looking at Carter. They give me this ADHD prod to do that, but I looked at the whole boy and I'm like, you know what? He also has asthma tendencies now. He's got seasonal allergies like crazy. He's got these skin rash issues. And I'm convinced that had we not done this, where I started to look into all these other things, if I would have thrown a medication at him, right now, he rarely, if ever, touches an inhaler. Like if he's at like a water park and he can't breathe because of the chlorine, maybe. Right, we used to have to close our windows at night and turn on air conditioning if there was pollen in the air because of his seasonal allergies. We haven't even thought about that in years. We haven't
that's
had,
awesome.
yeah, there's so many other little pieces where I'm like, how normal is it to just be like, yep, I've got seasonal allergies and you don't think twice about it? Or how
No,
normal
yeah.
is it to
Right.
refill
Yep.
your inhaler prescription and you don't even think about it?
Yeah.
And I've got this boy who's now not on any of the ADHD stuff, not on any of his inhaler stuff. We don't do anything for his seasonal allergies anymore. And I actually pointed it out to him after he mowed the lawn. He was covered in orange. Just orange. The lawnmower was, he was, and I'm like,
Which is pollen.
pollen, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can you breathe? He's like, yeah, why? And he looks at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, think about it.
Yeah.
Do you remember your seasonal allergies? And he's like, I hated those. And he literally would cry and like rub his eyes and be so like screaming frustrated
Right.
because it itched and burned. And I'm like,
That's so awesome.
how you
What a
feeling?
great testimony.
And he's like,
Yep.
but it really helps him make it tangible because sometimes
Right.
these long games are hard.
Yeah. It will, especially for kiddos.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
talking tangible, use the word, I like that word. Looking at foods, we referenced the Feingold diet, obviously food allergies and looking at histamine responses. The top foods, we've got a new article that just came out, I think, about that, but some foods immediately to avoid when you're dealing with any type of mind anxiety is wheat and dairy especially, but for sure wheat, and it can take up to 30 days for wheat to get out of the body. So don't be like me when I was dealing with Bella and come back in 2 days and go, it didn't work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
gonna
I
take
think it
time.
actually might be even
And
longer
healing,
than 30
is it
days.
longer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So depending on the body, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Some 2
Yep.
days, some, 40,
And
50.
is this true that someone who does have like that wheat is their issue, if you even have a crumb, that it can set you back for a
Oh
period
yeah.
of time as
Oh,
well?
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
that with any food
Yeah.
allergy, right? It causes inflammation, so you're not processing anything correctly, you're not
Yeah.
detoxing correctly.
Yeah.
And then the different tools and different trainings, putting them in different situations. You were blessed and fortunate enough to be able to homeschool her, but there's
Right.
different activities and different things that you can do. There's tons of centers out there and different things. You just got to start and keep adding in something
Yeah.
little
Mhm.
at a time. But big kicker for me, and I'm sure all of us, chiropractic adjustments.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's kind of my
How does that
personal
work? Why
story.
does it?
We had mold poisoning, which led to, we had it for so long that it really started to lead to some very serious, debilitating symptoms for me. And one of those was anxiety and panic attacks. You know, I
We're gonna
literally
go ahead and post Alex's story below
Yeah.
because we have that on video.
Yeah.
So we'll get that in the comments for those that don't know it.
Yeah.
Renee's story too.
And Renee's story
Yeah.
too. Yes.
But I remember struggling with this anxiety, and I had never experienced anxiety before all of this, and I remember my insides just shaking. But it got so bad to the point where I would start with anxiety, my hand would go into complete contracture, I couldn't open it, and then it would move into panic attacks, and then eventually seizures. And when it would get to that point, I would be in and out, not understanding where I was, what was going on, had a hard time recognizing my husband or what he was doing. I just, very out of it. And so, I mean, you go back, I'm a chiropractor, so you go back to the chiropractic adjustment, and it was so scary for me not understanding where I was when this would happen, that I finally said, you have to take me to the hospital. And he said, Alex, absolutely not. They're going to drug you, and we will never figure out what the trigger of this is ever. So, he goes back to our roots, and I was, having a seizure, and immediately he adjusted me, and it brought me out of the seizure, and I woke up, and I was like, what is going on? What is happening? What is going on? And then it started again, and I was out of it, and he adjusted me again. And so that whole entire night, that was the worst episode that we had, but that whole entire night, he would start to feel the bed shake, and he would get up, and he would just hold pressure on that atlas, that top bone in the neck, just hold pressure on it. It would stop the seizure, and then 10 minutes later, it would start again, and he would just hold pressure. So you talk about the impact or the value of a chiropractic adjustment, or just the severity of just a slight misalignment within that spine, putting pressure on that nervous system, and the debilitating effects that it can cause. So obviously when I have a patient come in, that's my first plan of action, is getting them worked up and getting them adjusted immediately to remove that stressor of it. When we talk about the 3 T's, you've got to remove that stressor. So getting
I just
adjusted.
think of 5 to 10 minutes a week for a 1 week adjustment.
You drive them there.
You drive them there, they get adjusted,
Yep.
and how
Yep.
easy
Yes, and effective.
and effective.
Well,
Yeah.
and people just relate it to muscle pain and things like that, but it's like, you are literally an electronic circuit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even one little kink in a wire, and you can change your mood, you can change your attitude.
And isn't it the
So-
weight of a dime on
Yep.
the back of your hand? That's all the pressure it takes
Yep.
to cause.
Yep. I mean, mine was nothing. He didn't even have to go through a full adjustment. He just had to put pressure on that bone in the opposite direction that it was misaligned, and it would stop a seizure, So very, very
That's
powerful.
incredible.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, let's take a peek here. Hi, Julie. Let's see here. Hi, Rachel. Thanks for covering this topic. So many of my students used to be so drugged up, and I would see the lack of appetite. You're good. I do it every week. She did it this week,
There
not
it is.
me.
There it is.
Lost the title. Hello, Kay. So for those that are just, I suppose, not probably hopping on right now, but everybody's telling us how old their kids are, any questions they have. If you look back in the episode, we were talking about anxiety, ADHD, different tools, tips, different things that we can do. Give us a like and a love, please. Share this. Comment a friend that you want to watch this. This is, I think, an easy way. It can be very hard to explain what diet or different thinking or the wellness way or chiropractic can do with a kid with ADD, ADHD, anything like that. So this is an easy way to introduce that to them. There is no shame if your child's already on ADD
No,
or
not at
ADHD
all, no.
meds. That was me years and years and years. There's things that you can do and get started, and we can look
Take
at
steps
that.
in the
So
right
any
direction.
age, 2
Yeah.
or 42.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. Hello, Jessica. The what diet? Feingold.
It's Feingold. So they've got a lot of information on their website. It is not flashy because it's run by volunteers, but the basic core premise is petroleum-based additives. So artificial colors, you remove those. You remove artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners, specific preservatives, BHT, TBHQ, and BHA. And then there's an additional piece where you remove salicylates from the diet. Now those are it's basically like a naturally occurring aspirin that's in foods. It's in a lot of organic foods even because it's a plant's defense
wait.
mechanism.
If you're giving your child Tylenol from teething from 6 months old,
Right.
or every headache or every fever,
Mhm.
and acetaminophen,
Yeah, if they have a sensitivity to that, it was described to me as it gets into the brain and creates this like a radio static. So like yeah. So
it is.
it was
it's
like
hard to explain.
Yes.
It's
well, and it's exactly what I saw in Carter though when I heard it explained like that, because it's like you know where you want to go, and then he would have this behavior, and then there would be this flash of like, that's not where I wanted to go, but I know where I should be going, but I can't get there because there's this static. So it was fascinating because that was a food piece where we could feed him. Salicylates are found in tomatoes, and if he would go and have a treat, French fries with ketchup, his behavior in class the next 3 days, they got these daily behavior grades, which were super stressful but helpful in mapping this kind of stuff. His behavior grade would go bottom out, and that would be a little better the next day, and then a little better the third day, back to where he was.
So now with newer research and what we know and what we do, I would take it a step further. And for me, I don't got time for the elimination. Get in and get tested. And I want to know what foods are causing that inflammation
Mhm.
immediately. But
Yeah.
I don't know that we did lots of food allergy testing when Carter was
They-
8.
No, and the salicylate testing is something that I look for, and I'm like, I can't find somebody. Maybe somebody knows how to do
Yeah.
it now because he's 15 and we're well beyond it. But it was even fascinating. Like he would drink a glass of orange juice, and here's my little asthma kit, and within 15 minutes his nose would be running. And it's not something we would have ever put together, ever, until we started to watch the foods and watch the fact that they can actually have this big of an impact.
It's huge.
It was unbelievable.
So that you think of the impact that it has and the damage that it does, think of the impact when you remove them and the body can start to function normally again. It's so profound. Yeah.
Well, and the allergies and the asthma, we never addressed those directly.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah,
doing everything
exactly.
else, and it just kind of like healed as a side bonus.
You're
because-
just pulling that stress off of the immune system, and the more stress you take off of that immune system, that's why the seasonal allergies and all of that started to dissipate. Yeah.
Ashley said, and I'm thinking, Ashley, that you're talking about the ages of your kids 7, 9, 10, 14, 15, 19, 22.
Oh my god, it's awesome.
Awesome. And the boys struggle. Which, back to what you're saying, she says, but we've been blessed to have teachers who allow movement and, of course, learning from the wellness way. There is times where, yes, it's real, but it is overdiagnosed now.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're just being boys. They're just being kids.
That's one
Movement
thing.
is huge, though.
But
Yes.
feed them.
Yep.
I mean, I see a difference between my boys and my girls for sure. Having they're totally different human beings and species and hormones and stuff. But you gotta still prep the body and feed them the way they should and give them the best possible.
We'll set them up for success with that. And this is strictly my opinion, but I've always found it, these kids, especially if they're not eating a healthy diet, they have a sugary breakfast and then they're sent off to school. So they're already in that excitatory state. They're sent off to school and expected to sit in chairs for how many hours in a row, get a small recess. If the weather's a little bit off, a lot of times they don't even send them outside, and then they're expected to sit again. They have crap food for lunch, and we expect them to function and behave appropriately, if you will, but we're not setting them up for success,
Well, and then they're spending every weekend inside,
Yes. Yeah.
zoning out because they're zoned out from the week, so they're not getting any vitamin D, and
But I mean, when they're sitting all day, they're not expending that energy. And when you look at kids, I mean, I think of my little niece who's 4. The amount of energy she has, it's just like, whoa, that's a lot. And they need to be out playing and exploring and expending that energy. So when they're expected to sit in, a classical school, and again, this is just my opinion, that's hard on them, especially when they're not eating healthy food, because they are in that excitatory state already.
So I
Carter's teacher
misspoke.
could
I've got to correct myself. Acetaminophen Tylenol is not a salicylate.
right.
Aspirin is. So same thing. Ibuprofen, whichever one you're using, but yeah, different thing, but same thing. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Dawn.
Carter's teacher could see when he was starting to get a little too tied to his chair, like he was starting to forget. And she would send him on errands.
See?
She, and it was so great because she was like, "All right, Carter, why don't you take this down to the office, or go up and bring this up to this teacher?" And I'm sure they're wildly unnecessary for her, but very necessary for him.
Absolutely.
So
But
how do you do that now when there's 17 out of 25 kids that need that?
That's
I just can't.
that's why we do these videos, to educate,
Right?
honestly,
Right.
so that you can, again, set them up for success, take the
Yes.
proper steps to send them out the door, without all these
We're here to help
excitatory,
you. Along
Yeah.
the way.
Yep.
So we've got 2 more back to school things coming up. Next week is something I don't remember. I'll find out shortly here. I didn't even think about doing that. Let's see here.
You texted it to me.
I texted it to all of you. Let's see. Next week is controlling the chaos. So we're going to talk about routines and different things that we do, helping with meal prepping, helping with bedtimes, and some neat things. But since we're close to back to school, we're talking about food and how do I get my kids to eat. I want to see a neat thing that I think you might have shared it on Facebook too. Start now. Have your little kids
Yes.
Eat-
I did.
eat lunch out of their lunchbox
So
at
they can-
the dinner table, or the breakfast or the lunch table, or the table's probably all
Because
three.
a lot of times they don't understand how to open the thing or what they
Yeah, they
should
can't get into the applesauce.
and know the timeline, like how much time you actually
Find out
have.
how much time to
My
eat
kids
this
would
food,
like
yeah.
be
Yeah.
starting and you got to be done and like it's
So run the
starting,
drills.
You know,
I
like-
thought that was super cool.
I know that
Yeah.
was kind of cute.
And
That's
I
how
want to
shared
talk
it.
about, we forgot to touch on it, but TV and video game usage use and how it correlates to ADD and ADHD, and especially if they're watching it before the age of 2, there's a
Right.
X amount of increase. I didn't think about looking it up ahead of time. Sorry, guys, just thought about it and what that means for the future. But I saw something the other day. I'm sure that doesn't totally help, but if you're weaning your kids off TV, because we know how it is literally another drug,
Absolutely.
turn off the sound, turn on closed captions, and now
And
they're
then
reading
watch
instead of
TV.
watching TV. Thought you would like that. But seriously, a good start if you just
It's a
can't
step in the right
immediately
direction. Yes.
turn off the TV. The lights,
Yeah.
the blue light, still a trigger. Don't just put your kid in front of the TV reading 24 hours a day, but it's a great start. So I thought that was super neat. So we're going to talk about chaos and routines next week. And then we are going to talk about, on Labor Day, we're actually recording, we still got Dr. Alex here, but Labor Day we'll be going, putting out boosting your child's immune system, what you need to know about that for back to school, because, the amount of messages we are getting lately of
Yeah, I would say that's
How
the
do
most
I
common question from.
boost my kid. They're going back to school, they're going to be around all these other kids. What do I do? What do I not do? So on and so forth. So that's what's coming up. And we thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week. Thank you, Dr. Alex.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime. I love it. I think I'm gonna come work here.
Then I'm going to Montana.
Because we have babysitters. They're all over. I don't even know where
Have
my
you
baby
seen your
is.
child
No,
in a couple
not
episodes?
ours.
No.
No, I love it.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
Bye.